Welcome to Leetcode 3152 Special Array 2. This question is medium, but I really struggled with it again. I don't know why I made this channel. I struggled with half the questions, but it's about the journey, isn't it? So um, in this one, um, it says an array is considered special if every pair of its adjacent elements contains two numbers with different parity. I didn't know what parity meant. Apparently, it means that one number is positive. So for every two numbers next to each other, one is positive and the one positive. One is odd and one is even. So that's basically what it means. So if there's two consecutive numbers even, that's not special. That's no parity there. So it says you're given an array integer of nums and a 2D matrix queries where queries I from and to, and your task is to check the subarray is special or not. So you're basically given a bunch of queries, and the task is to see if this query satisfies it, if the subarray is special, they have different parity or not. Return an array of booleans, answer such as answer as I is true if numbers from to is special, right? So when I started solving this problem, for context, this is the editorial solution. This is not mine. I couldn't solve it. I didn't even know that the intuition is it's crazy. If you know that you solve this using a binary search, you're a genius. Um, Anyways, when I first like my thinking process solving this problem was at first I tried like figuring out, okay, how do we like check um, how do we check for ranges, right? How do we check for ranges? So I looked at the hints, which mentioned try to split the array into some non-intersected continuous special subarrays, and I thought, okay, let's try that. So I had like, it was not the best way, obviously, but I had like a set, and then for every time I found an index that violates the special thingy, that so I found an index where it's even and the previous number is even, or it's odd and the previous number is odd. I had like two pointers, and I started like moving the pointer, checking the subarrays in this area between the two pointers, and then because these are all valid, right? But then it passed like 500 and something out of 540, but then the queries kept getting weirder. I couldn't. It was not a feasible solution. Um, then I actually got stuck. I couldn't figure it out for my life. But I had to unfortunately look at the editorial solution, and I can like, it's really um, non-intuitive, and I feel like these types of questions, when you get stuck, it's just a binary search. I'm not sure, but for the past week for leak codes dailies, they've been really confusing, and the answer has all been binary search. So basically the idea here is it tries thinking backwards, right? It tries finding the violating indexes first, and when you find the violating index, you're given the length of the array of queries you want to check, right? What it does is it checks for every range, does there exist a violating index in this range or not, right? If there exists, then this query has to be invalid, right? If didn't exist, then this query has to be like good, it's special, it works, right? So the first thing that happened here is it loops over the numbers, and then it just appends the violating indexes, the ones that break the rule, so they're either all even or all odd consecutively. Then it loops over the queries, right? And then we have this answer array, just for they're all false to start with, and then you get the start and the end, right? And then you binary search, sending in the start plus one, because again, when you're working with the query has start and end, right? When you're working with the binary search, you want to send start plus one, because the first index of the query, it's always going to be true. You don't want to binary search on that, because um, it's always going to be true when you search for it. Um, because there was test cases like that where the query would be 0 and 0, for example. So yeah, so the binary search goes from start plus 1 till end, and then it sends in an array of violating indexes, and the job is it's going to binary search in the job indexes, finding an index that exists between the start and the end specified, right? So what it does is it loops over the violating indexes. It doesn't loop it, it makes a binary search where it gets the mid, it gets the index, and then it checks is it less than start? That means it's less than start. Check another index, right? Because the violating index is sorted by default, anyways. Because since you collected them here in a sorted order, so they're sorted by default because they're indexes in the end. If it's less than start, check another index. If it's bigger than end, like move the pointers accordingly. If there exists one, return true, right? So otherwise return false. So if it returns true, that means it's violating. So then it has to be false. Otherwise it's set to true, right? So yeah, the time complexity of this is O of n. Here for this part. For this part is O of q queries length multiplied by log the violating indices length, right? But it's just like worst case scenario, it's just O of n. Yeah, that's been it for this one. See you in the next one. Hopefully I can solve it by myself this time.